Welcome, everybody from around the world. We are so glad that you are here for another celebration of Earth Day. This year, it is A Better World hosting and producing this event. In past years, we've done so with Planet Heart and Andrew Kane. This year, we are bursting forth with a new energy, a new love, a new light to bring a certain level of wakefulness, if you will, and celebration to this subject. We have an extraordinary group of people this year, as in fact we always do. And this year, it's a stellar group of a wonderful energy field that we will be creating today as we are all together. We have people tuning in from everywhere. We're so glad we've had John Raymer and Roland Marconi helping us with the production here so we can have an outreach to literally all corners of the world. So I want to welcome all of you from everywhere for our A Better World Earth Day celebration in 2024. Now, also, for those of you who have friends who want to tune in another time, it will be on our YouTube channel, so you can always tune in then after. But, well, there's something exciting about doing it live as a group, ensemble, from everywhere. And you'll be hearing some wonderful people who are dedicated thinkers, global leaders, environmentalists, scientists, and native elders speaking with us from everywhere. British Columbia, Colombia. We have someone from Australia joining us, from the West Coast, the East Coast, where I am in New York City, and everywhere else. Now, let me just take a look at the notes that I wrote to myself for all to uh, appreciate. I wanted to just say a word about our past guests and speakers because they've been awesome. And one or two are back here with us this time, in particular, Bruce Lipton. So, who else have we had over the years? And all of this is on the YouTube channel that you can tune into anytime you'd like. We've had evolutionary biologist Elizabeth Satoris. We've had doctors JJ and Desiree Hertak. We've had Dr. Guy McPherson, renowned journalist Dar Jamal, the Pachamama co-founder and global thought leader Lynn Twist. We've had Dwayne Elgin. We've had regenerative farming and permaculture advocates. We've had ocean restoration scientists. We've had celebrity radio host and environmental activist and scientist Gary Null, and many, many others over the course of, I don't know how long we've been doing this, 10, 12, 14 years. So again, we're going to have another special time. I'm so grateful to have all of you here. As I said, this is a stellar gathering of men and women committed to a healthy planet and a species restored to balance and to love. Quality, an element that has just been disappearing through ordinary daily life, where there are wars abounding and people forget how to be wonderful and human. Well, today marks yet another regenerative aspect of a kind of world we really all want to live in and see and actually create. After all, in this nonprofit, A Better World is one that I founded and I manage. And the work that we do is aligned with the work that the people that are going to be on today have been doing in many cases for decades. So that makes our sharing a common sense of value, a common sense of purpose, all the more enjoyable. Because when you find people you like to hang out with, when you find people who are involved in creating a better world, you want to hang out with them. You want to spend time and feel revivified through these relationships. And that, my friends, is what we're doing here tonight as a group. So today, what we'll be doing is starting with a blessing from our dear Chief Phil Lane, who's been with us also for a number of years, opening it up. And then we'll go step by step with each speaker. We have a couple of surprises at the end of folks that were not listed in the flyer, and you'll just have to stay tuned to see who they are. So, on that note, I would really love to invite our dear Chief Phil Lane to give us some initial blessings for our event.
Well, Brother Mitchell, thank you. Thank you so much for all the dedicated work, not only you do, but everybody, not only here in this seen world right here with us in the circle, but also the unseen world. So that's who we're going to ask to support and to inspire and re-strengthen and unify our human family and restore Mother Earth. Creator of the universe, most beloved one, all powerful one, most kind one, most compassionate one, ever forgiving one. We call upon your holy power. And all our ancestors were close in our closest vein, who inspire us, to uplift us, to help us understand that each of us is born a sovereignty, ancient, imperishable, and everlasting. May we, from this day forward, as much as we can, when we see another human being, let us not see their earth suit. Let us see that they're a sacred soul, a soul that has no gender, has no class, has no ethnicity, has no race, which makes any form of prejudice completely unacceptable. Because each of us, this sacred being we are, when we get beyond our earth suits, is the fact that our soul, our eternal soul, is reflection, the oneness of our Creator, the oneness of God. And Creator of all good things, we call upon your holy power, especially today, in every moment, that we might respect and honor our beloved Mother Earth and all her sacred representatives, womankind, and all those spiritual qualities within each and every one of us that different cultures call the divine feminine. May we, each and every one of us, develop the full spectrum of what's called masculine and feminine qualities, because it goes far beyond this universe, any duality. Let us help us understand that. We call upon all the tribes and nations of the East to come together in unity and harmony, not only to protect this Mother Earth, but to unite humanity. Into the South, where comes new life, we call upon all those tribes and nations to come together to restore Mother Earth and unite humanity. And we call upon all the tribes of the West, from where comes thunder, lightning, and rain, to come together and unite our human family and restore Mother Earth. And we call upon all the tribes, the nations of the North, from where comes the white, purifying north winds, to purify our hearts and minds, who might fully understand this sacred covenant we've been called upon on the sacred fires of Palenque, the eighth fire, to unify our human family and restore our beloved Mother Earth and our world family. And in Kashtawakantaka, we just give thanksgiving to our Father Sky and all those dimensions of ourselves. At the same time, we ask forgiveness that these divine masculine qualities have become so overbalanced. May we fully understand that the condor, the hummingbird, the quetzal, and the eagle have two wings. One is woman and one is man. Until both wings of these sacred symbols, these sacred birds, have equal honor and respect and justice, the eagle, condor, the hummingbird, quetzal will never reach their promised glory. And most of all, here, Creator of all good things, we humble ourselves before our beloved Mother Earth, and also remembering our mothers, our beloved mothers who for our life gave themselves like our Mother Earth is giving herself. We might live. May we awaken to the reality that Mother Earth's not sick, we are. We are sick for the way we're treating each other, our beloved relatives. May we understand, Creator, that the hurt of one is the hurt of all. At the same time, the upliftment, the healing of one is the upliftment and healing of all. Halimi chante washtelo, shunkmano hameado, chinupasapa hamedo, halimi chante washteo. Oh my God, oh my God. Unite the hearts of thy servants and reveal unto them thy great purpose. May they follow in thy commandments and abide in thy law. Help them, O God, in their endeavor and grant them strength to serve thee. O God, lead them not to themselves, but guide their steps to the light of knowledge and cheer their hearts by the love. Verily, thou art their helper, O Lord. Hallelujah, chante washte. Shugmano hemeado, chinupasaba hemedo, hallelujah, chante washte. And I close in the words of our Dakota people. When we close, what we have to say, we say our names in this. Shukmano hemedo, chinupasaba hemedo, hallelujah, chante washte. My names are Shukmano and Chinupasapa, and I stand fully responsible before our Creator for all my words and my actions. Hallelujah, chante washte, aho. And thank you, beloved brothers and sisters and grandmothers and all those in the seen and unseen world who are surrounding us at this time and empowering us as prophesied. Hallelujah, chante washte, aho.
Aho. Phil, thank you so much. Words of an elder. Again, I love you. So great to have you.
I just want to say this last thing. If there's any quality that you see that you think is nice inside me or any behavior, if you didn't have them yourself, you couldn't see them in me. We're just simply mirrors to each other. We're just mirrors, sacred mirrors to mirror each other's sacred souls. Aho.
Oh, aho. We are with you, dear brother. We are with you. You know, it's just no words to describe how important it is to begin a process like this with a man like Phil Lane, who is, as an elder in his indigenous tradition, carries the blessing and the wisdom of the ancestors to bring to our gathering here, and to remind us of the energy of the history and the ancestry of all of us in our own indigenous land, because we are all indigenous. And his community, his tribes, remind us of our deep, abiding relationship with Mother Earth, which our modern society has way too much lost. And yet, many of us are. The gathering here is seeking to restore it. So again, thank you. Moving on, we're going to do a little shifting and shaping because we have to, because such is life, right? One of our guests that was set up for speaking next has not yet quite arrived. So we will dance with the reality of where we're standing. So I would like to invite a colleague and friend, Colin Grant, who is a long tried and true environmentalist. He is an eco-entrepreneur. He holds a unique combination of working with the environment and his experience in ecosystem restoration, sustainability software he has developed, and he is an innovator par excellence, and he's doing some beautiful work, some of which he will be sharing with us all right now. So, Colin, welcome so much to A Better World to Earth Day celebration. So glad you're here.
Well, thank you. I couldn't feel more welcome than going through that welcome from Chief Phil and, of course, yourself. Thank you so much.
Of course, absolutely. Well, I know you have been a stalwart worker on behalf of the earth, oftentimes behind the scenes. It goes that way sometimes. We're not here for our fame and celebrity. We're here for doing the hard, gritty work of making a difference in our world. And you are one of the leaders in that space. I know from the inside how true that is. From that point of view, would you please share with us what messages you feel, based on all of your experience, Colin, up to this point, we should know share with us a little of the work you're doing, work you have done, and what you feel our august audience really should hear in their hearts and their minds.
Where to start? Start at the beginnings. I was raised in, as you can probably tell, in Scotland, in one of the most beautiful places in the world, the Spey Valley, where many whiskies come from. Um, a river ran through it, the River Spey, which was the most famous salmon river in the world at one time. So I fished and swam in the river in summer, and when the snows came in winter, I skied in the mountains at the top of the valley, and the snows melted and brought back the salmon. And that was the cycle of my life, very much like First Nations anywhere around the world or in many parts of the world. I'm now transferred to British Columbia. How did I get here? So the first part of my life was in ski racing. I was brought up by an Olympic coach who told me I had to become an Olympian, which I almost did, and did something rather nasty to my knee and just before the Calgary Olympics. Then coached children who were the offspring of my first coaches and told them they had to get to the Olympics. One of them did. And then, in fact, three of them did. And one of them astounded the world by getting the bronze medal at the Salt Lake Winter Olympics. And that wasn't supposed to happen from Scotland. So I studied, yeah, and after I retired from ski racing, I studied economics and biotechnology at university, got bored stupid by most of the economics and fascinated by biotechnology, and particularly when I got into environmental biotechnology in my last year. So I wrote my thesis at university on the economics of biogas coming out of landfills and how we could, this was treated as a waste and it stank and it's methane and it could explode. And it's, what's a resource? What the heck are we doing thinking of this as a problem? So I wrote my thesis on how to capture that landfill gas and not just turn it into electricity, but turn it into greenhouses and turn it into all kinds of wonderful developments. And suddenly something that we thought was a blight becomes an asset. So I got an award for that, and probably spent far too much of my last year doing that versus looking at economics, but still got through my degree. So when I graduated, I started a business. I invented, I don't know how it goes, a process for using fungi to clean up contaminated land. So Britain at the time was covered in tar ponds from old gaswork sites, all kinds of industrial land, some of them full of bombs from the Second World War. And we had very little landfill space left. So there was a lot of pressure on not transporting contaminated soil over to landfill sites. So I developed a process for using fungi to very quickly remediate contaminated land, built up that business, treated many hundred thousands of acres of land, sold that business in about 2000. And I'd visited British Columbia or Alaska a few times in skiing adventures and just loved this part of the world and decided to move over here in 2001. I then went sideways with my career, thinking that I could, with a brilliant software invention, hubris of this, that all the world could come. I read all my, Amory Lovins and Hawkins and natural capitalism, and I just thought if we could make this beautiful and understandable and get beyond reporting to actually seeing things and linking plans together, that somehow I could help lead the world into sustainability. And I deluded myself for many years doing that. Had a lot of great work with mayors and CEOs and all kinds of organizations, prime ministers. But at the back of my mind, I was going, this isn't working. Incremental change, by well-meaning people as chief strategy officers or chief sustainability officers in companies, where the company is driven by a CEO and a CFO, and they really don't care that much in general about sustainability. You can carry on doing that over there as long as it doesn't get in the way of shareholder value.
It's an academic exercise for them.
For the chief sustainability officers, most of the time they're very passionate people. They care about what they're doing, but they can't do anything other than make money for the business. They're not allowed to. So it just isn't going to work.
That's a chief point, by the way. They're not allowed to. Please
What's
go
that
on.
say? Yeah.
I said that's a chief point that they are not allowed to, that you
Yeah.
made.
It's
Very
it's it's
important
basically
point.
illegal for a board to do anything that doesn't increase shareholder wealth. So
So what are you
around
doing now? And
well,
what
yeah.
is, you and I got close through an ocean restoration project because our hearts both knew that through the ocean, we would be able to create the greatest level of sequestration and life
Mhm.
force, if you will, on the
Yeah.
planet. Could you
Well,
speak
in,
to
in
that?
my in my roundabout Scottish storytelling way, I was just getting there. About four years ago, at the height of COVID, my father died, and I wasn't able to get to his funeral or to be with him when he died. And it was a very transformative period in my life. I decided to leave the software company that I'd co-founded. My partners were doubling down on ESG, which is just another license to pollute, in my view, I'm afraid. So I said enough. I left, got bought out, and spent the last 3 to 4 years trying to find the key, going back to my regeneration roots and trying to find those key areas on the planet. What can we do to dramatically enhance life, and in so doing solve the climate crisis? The climate crisis is not the problem. The crisis is an ecological problem, and I'm sure most of you will point out that's a spiritual problem with humanity. So how can we create massive regeneration and solve all of the problems with one or two or three solutions? So I then discovered the work of a guy called Howard Dryden, Dr. Howard Dryden, a fellow Scot who had been traveling across the ocean investigating it. He was probably the most experienced aquariumist in the world and had seen aquariums go from functioning to collapsing with tiny little things going wrong. And he once told me that a 6-inch length of PVC pipe was enough in a circulating system to poison an entire ocean equivalent in an aquarium. That's how sensitive things are. And then he showed me that all the pesticides from the land, all the microplastics that are getting in the ocean are collecting in this tiny little thin film on top of the ocean, microns thick or thin. And that is where all life on Earth comes from. The plankton are in there. We've killed off 50% of the plankton. And don't worry, the story has a happy ending. But this was my exploration.
I was getting worried.
And when I realized, the plankton have been killed off, the plankton create a surfactant layer on top of the ocean. And that dictates how much water vapor leaves. So you kill off the plankton, you kill off the surfactant layer, then you get more water vapor leaving the ocean. That is not then seeded with all the tiny little bits of plankton. At the center of every snowflake is a plankton, or planktor is the singular of plankton.
Oh.
Imagine that. All the biological material in the ocean, you get storms, it gets volatilized. That starts the process. And then a similar process happens on land from the trees. So the oceans seed the rain, and now they're not seeding rain, they're seeding water vapor, which is 70% of greenhouse gases, not CO2. It's about less than 20%. So the real problem is this breakdown in the ocean. And at the same time, we've, just stripped the land bare of trees. We've treated farmland like an athlete that we give steroids and protein to and expect it to perform. And of course it dies. And we keep it alive artificially. So coming back to your core question, what am I doing just now? So I have just joined a company called Soil Carbon Partners, soon to be named Forterra, the number 4 and Terra, based on the genius work of a gentleman called Ed Hewling. So Ed is a farmer who for 20 years produced the most spectacular heirloom vegetables, microgreens for Whole Foods, so good that they had to create a whole new category for what he did. But he wasn't satisfied with that. He knew that the nutrient content of even his food was dramatically lower than it would have been 100 years ago. So he kept asking, what is it that the soil needs, that the plants need, that we need? and he worked back. And every time he gave the right new mineral to the plants, the plants started growing dramatically more effectively. So we're not using pictures tonight, but I want you to picture a 6-foot gentleman standing in front of forage crops 7 or 8 feet high that have grown in a few weeks on land that was previously degraded, including Appalachian former mine land, which was basically a mountain that they ripped off, threw in the bottom of the valley and said, have at it now. I want you to imagine somebody standing beside an untreated tree crop, which is growing up to their knees or maybe to their waist, and then them standing beside a treated tree crop, which is 12 to 14 feet high, all of which grew in 13 months. I want you to imagine, if you've watched Common Ground and Kiss the Ground, imagine that the transition of any piece of land going to regenerative practices 4 times more productive than the best regenerative practices that you saw in Kiss the Ground or Common Ground, and sequestering 10 to 20 times more carbon than the best regenerative farmed soil. And all of this is verified by academics. I want you to imagine the planet 4 to 8 times more productive. And think about Brazil, where we're going, how do we save the Amazon? And for years, I've been sitting there just in misery as you all see the headlines on LinkedIn and all the rest of it going, you know, it's not going to work. We can't do it quick enough. Imagine all those depleted soils in the Amazon being brought back alive. So if you want cattle, you can have the cattle there. You can have 4 times as many cattle on the land growing twice as much, or twice as fast. All of this proven. So I have now discovered that the planet can be almost overnight, you know, any bit of the planet can be made 4 to 8 times more productive and sequester 10 to 20 times the carbon. Now, Mitch, to your point about the ocean, all those problems in the ocean, the dead zones that we've seen forming when agricultural runoff and sewage end up there, solving the sewage problem is just a question of money. It's not even expensive, but we just, you know, the UK pours it in the ocean, you know, all the time. It happened, 80% of it reaches the ocean untreated. That's solvable, but only with money. So this land can generate enormous amounts of money almost overnight. And that money can then get put to other good uses. But that land no longer needs the pesticides. It no longer needs the fertilizers that are running off and causing these dead zones. So you get into this virtuous cycle from this destructive cycle, and all of it can be done profitably. Because Mitch, you know, we've been looking for funding for this type of technology, and it's all, you know, everybody, UN says $300 billion, it never appears anywhere. You know, it's all just pledges. So this can be done profitably. And it is absolutely mind-blowing, but it's true.
Would you make that's beautiful, Colin? I so appreciate your clarifying things that are otherwise really not clarified for most people. And I'm always learning from you. There's another point that, in closing, I would like you to make before you leave, which is about oxygen and phytoplankton and
Mm-hmm.
oxygen and what we're doing in that way to starve ourselves literally by not caring properly for the oceans. Would you make that point?
Yeah, I mean, we've lost over 50% of plankton since I was a kid. And plankton gave us at least 50% of our oxygen and probably more on the planet. So it's desperate. And I have been desperate for years and putting a face on it and trying to convince my kid he's going to have a future and all these things that I'm sure you've done. But when I look at this, we can bring back. So the other element, you know, everything's connected. So yes, the plankton have to be brought back. But if we stop, the plankton are being overtaken by blue-green algae and dinoflagellates. So we get these toxic algal blooms all over the world, and it's disastrous. Like it's taking over freshwater, and it's like a 50s horror movie. But that's coming. We're feeding them with nitrogen primarily from artificial fertilizers. And we no longer need to do this. And we're killing them with microplastics coated with pesticides. Guess what? We don't need those pesticides because the cattle grown in this system by Ed are almost immune to disease. There's nothing, they're healthy and they're working their way through. We've got these collars that we call, I'm very proud of this one. I named it the virtual wolf pack, which is really, really cool. But it's a collar that gently, slightly annoyingly at first, teaches them to move like a herd, as if they're being herded by wolves across the plains. So they imitate the buffalo and the bison. So this has been done by Alan Savory and Roger Savory and various other people. But Ed's taken it to a vast new level, to 4 to 8 times more productive than conventional regenerative farming. So all of these things, how do we put Bayer out of business? People are trying to attack Bayer and Monsanto with claims, and then they just buy politicians and all the rest of it. Put them out of business by just making their product completely and utterly irrelevant. Now, I don't know that they're going to come after us, because that's, these companies are descendant from Nazis experimenting and people in Auschwitz with nasty chemicals. So there's a lot of battles to fight. But this is an economically productive way of restoring Gaia. And I'm continually amazed every day. And my wife was saying, she's like, you're so alive, just now, you're so fired up. And I feel so fired up because I see miracles happening on a daily basis. And it's everything that the wonderful introduction, that talks about Mother Earth and Father Earth and all these elements. So yeah, the questions, it's Ed Huling, Huling. The company is soilcarbonpartners.com. That's one word, soilcarbonpartners.com. And we may have a pretty spectacular announcement that I leaked to you, Ed, Mitch, before the meeting, but I can't talk about it now. But we are raising huge amounts of money to be able to buy huge amounts of land and regenerate it. So we're not going at this as a little go-to-market where it's go big or no home, type of approach here.
Wonderful. Colin Grant, I so appreciate all that you've done and all that you continue to do,
Thank
and
you.
including the elucidation for all of us about the nature of things, if you will, in the ecosystem and where the problems are and where they may not be, and solutions therein.
Give me 30 seconds more, Ed, just sorry, Mitch. That river spay I talked about earlier, about halfway through my career, once I was well into remediation, I discovered that my great-grandfather had developed a process for treating the distillery waste that was pouring into the river, in the last century. And that was killing off the salmon in the river. And it was once I was already a remediation practitioner that my cousin told me about this. So it's very interesting how these things cycle through. It wasn't, I didn't know that to follow that path. It just was somehow in my genes.
That's beautiful. In other words, it's all in the family. So, Colin, thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Colin and I had a great pleasure and some very hard work over the last few months in an ocean restoration project that we were jointly working with each other on. And I learned a lot from him during that period of time. And we'll be doing an interview for A Better World, so we'll be able to drill down a little further into that space. One of the points also is about acidification of our oceans. And that's what has led to those dead zones that Colin was talking about. And thankfully, there are methods that are out there that I continue to explore on behalf of A Better World, which is all of us, to de-acidify the ocean and bring back life, literally breathe life back to them. Because at the end of the day, it's our life force, man. That's what we're really talking about here. And it needs to be rejuvenated and regenerated.
The forest, the vegetative cover the vegetative cover that could be created with this system will draw down. We would be more worried about an ice age than climate change if we did that fourfold increase and tenfold increase in carbon drawdown. We don't have a carbon drawdown problem. We've got a biodiversity problem.
Well put. So interesting. So we're going to move along right now. Charles Eisenstein has joined us.
Hi, Mitch. Happy to be here.
So glad to have you. So glad to have you. You know, you are your own a better world, you know? So it's going to be a little hard for me to slice and dice where I would like you to pick up. But really, I'd love you, Charles, to just speak from what you feel in your heart our beautiful audience all around the world should know at this point in time. We're very much at a crossroads. We're either going toward life affirmation and evolution or not, devolution. Will you speak to that and what you feel we all really should know?
Well, I was very moved by the last guest you had on. Was it Colin?
Colin. Colin Grant.
Yeah, Colin Grant. Who spoke to a lot of the basic paradigms that I'm also speaking from. And it sounds almost like a cliche these days to say, well, everything is connected. But that is, cliches often come from truth. And the understanding that what we do to the world, we do to ourselves, that what happens to the plankton or happens to the rainforest or happens to the fish or the whales happens to us. That is what I call a new story or well, it's actually not new, it's also very ancient, but a new guiding mythology for civilization. So the ecological crisis is what's making that more and more painfully obvious to us. And as long as we ignore that truth, it will continue to become more and more painful to the point of despair. But one thing that was so important in what Colin was saying is that it suggests the incredible possibility, the potency of life to heal. That even I was like really almost kind of taking notes, like, oh, what are these regenerative practices that outperform the ones that I know about by 4 or 8 times? The situation is not hopeless.
We will talk about that another time.
Yeah. And I want to bring that into, as you mentioned, I'm advising Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is a very committed environmentalist, but, in many ways, moving from some of the older paradigms of environmentalism into newer ones.
Yes.
One of those I call carbon fundamentalism, that seeks to collapse the interconnected complexity of the global biosphere, of the global ecosystem, into a single solution, a single quantity. And the idea that you can save the world by minimizing or maximizing a quantity, that one thing is the key to everything, that everything can be reduced to one number, that all problems can be reduced to one number. That is that kind of reductionistic thinking, which is also financial thinking. I mean, where did we get that idea that everything that we want can be delivered if only a certain number goes up?
It's like a magic pill thinking.
Yeah. And that collapse of complexity mirrors the collapse of the complexity of our ecosystems.
Correct.
And so as an antidote to that, it's so important to just listen and absorb the knowledge that someone like Colin is bringing about the interrelatedness of all of these things. And he mentioned plankton. One of the reasons that we've had a 50% loss of plankton is the decimation of the whales, because the whales bring up nutrients from the deep ocean. They feed several hundred meters down, or in the case of sperm whales, even deeper, and they come to the surface to poop and pee and to even give birth, and they'll transport nutrients to places that otherwise wouldn't have them. And you get rid of the whales, and the plankton don't have the food that they need. And so these and then some of the plankton are the coccolithophores that then sequester calcium carbonate on the sea floor. And so you could make an argument, well, we have to save the whales because it'll sequester more carbon. But that whole way of thinking is actually part of the problem. And so the solutions, they don't come from that way of thinking. That way of thinking gives us fake solutions, like digging pit mines all over the earth to get lithium and silver and cobalt to electrify the economy. Fake solution. Or installing carbon-sucking machines to
carbon capture.
Have carbon capture or geoengineering, that kind of thing. That's what happens when you think in terms of a single quantity.
Reductionist.
And not in terms of life.
Yes.
So the real solutions come from an understanding of the basic principle that life creates life. Life creates the conditions for life. So the more life there is, the more life can thrive. And any destruction of an ecosystem, whether it's a marine ecosystem, by poisoning it, by overfishing it, or a land, clear cutting, destruction of seagrass meadows, wetlands, then you're actually harming the physiology of the totality of life, which is also alive. The whole earth is alive. And so here we are destroying the organs one by one and thinking that if we could only reduce carbon dioxide, everything would be okay. It's just really, it's that way of thinking is part of the problem.
I agree with you. And you and I explored this in our interview recently, and I was expressing my appreciation of your clarity around this, of recognizing and appreciating and honoring the complexity of the ecosystem, the way every single thing is related to another. And it's not trivial to say everything is connected. That is just the truth. That also has gotten trivialized, but there's nothing trivial about it at all. And so what I remember you're saying then and implying now is there's not a linearity. There is some cause and effect, true, but the more gracious, more realistic worldview is there is a circularity to all of Mother Nature. That you're also making the point, she is alive, she is intelligent, she is adaptable. And we're the ones who are almost, if anything, any species stepping outside of that norm of how everything speaks to each other and understands each other and works with each other collaboratively in the ecosystem. Just today, it happens, I was listening to Radiolab, a really wonderful show, and they were talking about vultures. And everyone would think at first, oh, vultures. Vulture capitalism? No, vultures in nature, they were saying, are the immune system of our entire planet. That was a totally new idea to me. We all have our mindset about vultures, but in fact, they play an incredibly important, vital role in our entire ecosystem. I'm only mentioning that in light of the texture that you're bringing forward in our understanding and a way of understanding our beautiful Gaia, Mother Earth. So please pick up if you would. We still have a few minutes, and I'd like for you, if you would, to talk about the brilliant environmental activist Robert F. Kennedy Jr., because unlike any presidential candidate currently or ever, this is an environmentalist who is also a defendant of children and has been willing to go after companies, poison companies like Monsanto. Would you say a few words about what you're seeing on the inside there to our audience? Because most people don't even realize he's running, and it's so important that they do.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot of people know he's running now. We're definitely in the high teens or low 20s actually in polls, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, and there's some recent data that we saw that confirmed my intuition that we're actually the only chance to beat Donald Trump. And
Interesting.
And even like,
could you say something about that? Could you comment on that?
I don't know. It'll probably come out at some point.
Okay.
But what I would want to really say is that the gravity of the ecological crisis right now is too great to settle for the lesser of two evils. We need an actual committed environmental president who has proven over decades that he is unwavering in his commitment to protect the environment. He's sued pretty much every corporation and government agency that there is for a variety of environmental causes. And the other cause that he's associated with is children's health, which he sees very much as also an environmental problem. That looking at the meteoric rise of childhood chronic disease in the last two generations, what changed? So, he's associated with questioning the role of vaccines in that, but that's not the only environmental factor that has changed. It's the PFAS and the forever chemicals and the estrogen mimicking chemicals and the electromagnetic pollution, and the pesticide residues and the microplastics and all of these assaults on the human body that mirror the same assaults on the plankton, on the amphibians, on the songbirds, on the insects. 25% decline in songbirds over the last 50 years. I don't know, the figures for insects are controversial, but I mean, some of these studies are showing a 70-80% decline in insect biomass. So the same thing, this is what I was saying at the beginning, that what we do to the world, we do to ourselves, because we're fundamentally not separate. This mythology of separation we've built a civilization on a mythology of separation, and now the delusion of that is making itself known. So these two issues that seem kind of separate, children's health, chronic disease, on the one hand, and environment on the other hand, are intimately connected. And so that's what unifies his commitment to those two issues. And, it's not that he, or anybody really knows for sure what is causing the epidemic of chronic disease. If it's one of these factors is more important than the others, because we haven't really even been asking that question because of the financial interests, because of the institutional inertia, because of groupthink, many reasons. People on the margins are asking and coming up with answers, but as a whole, our society isn't really looking at that with the urgency that we should. I mean, can you imagine in 1960 if you said, today we have a 6% chronic disease rate and it's going to go up to 60% in 2 generations? I mean, can you imagine? Like,
no.
Almost every family is affected by this. And you look at these people behind their brave faces, behind their normal demeanors, behind their closed doors, and there is so much suffering out there. We're in bad shape, just as bad as the planet is, inseparable.
Correct. It's so true, Charles. Your purview is so helpful. It's sobering. And as I said at the beginning, or I certainly meant to say, I went off script, that tonight is going to be uplifting, but sobering. And you are helping us see, because if we do not reckon with the reality that you are so clearly displaying before us, the suffering, the emotional pain of going against nature, our own nature, there's a price to be paid. And there really are solutions, as
Yeah.
we all understand.
Miracle level solutions.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of, I'm really familiar with the world of alternative health,
Yes.
and I mean, you hear about these miracle healings through various modalities of medically incurable. My wife is a practitioner. She cures people of medically incurable conditions regularly. This is kind of, well, what's possible for the human body is also possible for the ecological body.
Yes.
It's also possible for the body politic. Once we align with life, and just like Colin was saying, you look at the soil, what actually is missing? What does life need? And you give it what it needs, then the healing capacity is just stupendous.
That's right.
It's just a shift of consciousness away.
That's right.
All of these solutions become visible when we see Earth as alive and when we see our role as to participate in the process of life and not to resist it and not to conquer it and not to dominate it and control it.
Beautiful, true words, my dear brother. I really appreciate it. In closing, I'll just say, I think it was St. Augustine who said that miracles are not in contrary to nature, but rather in what we know about nature. So when we digest that one, we will be creating medical impossibilities all the time, just like your wife. It's a mindset, as you say. And we're really appreciative of your mindset here tonight. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing some of your thoughts with us. God bless. Thanks again. You'll have to tune in to our interview on YouTube on our channel, A Better World TV show, because we have a delightful conversation, a dialogue about these things. And one point I will make before moving on to, oh my word, we have Kristen Hoffman coming up next, is that when Charles just spoke about the separation between us and nature, that does not exist, as a separation between our minds and bodies do not exist. It's just one full whole. So too, the same applies to what we refer to as matter and what we refer to as spirit. They're not separate. They're one continuous whole. Now, indigenous people, like our dear brother Phil Lane, knows that in his bones, and he is sharing that with us. He did in the form of prayers and blessings for us. It's understood in the bones. And the Taoists from ancient China also understand that. And I think all of us really can, when we dig down deep enough inside ourselves, we can see that everything is one large continuum. So on that note, everything that we're talking about here is going to continue on to our beautiful Kristen Hoffman, who's going to regale us with her singing and music.
Oh, thank you, beloved Mitchell. Wow, what a beautiful night of sharing together. Oh, let's just take one moment before we step into the music to just take one deep breath together, breathing in. As we synchronize, send your intention into the music. I am going to bring through a peace that has never before been born, that I will be listening for your hearts, for your vision, for your healing, for your blessings for this sacred mother, and we'll go on a journey together as this Solom Song of Light is birthed into being in honor of Gaia. Here we go. And breathe this life into each other. Breathe this light into our mother. Restore sacred vision. Restore this sacred mission. Just breathe. Breathe this life into each other. Breathe this light back to the mother. Send out this love light. And when we heal as one. And when we feel as one. When we sing as one. And when we heal as one. And when we feel as one. And when we sing as one. One song singing. Hey us life into each other. Breathe us light into each other. Breathe. Breathe this love into each other. Breathe this love in. Breathe this love in. Restore this light into the mother. Breathe it in.
Kristen, my dear Kristen, the hardest part of this job is to actually speak in words after such magnificence. Thank you, my dear. Thank you so much. I love you so much.
Love you so much. And just sending waves and blessings to each being listening and each being living and breathing on this planet, and together, this symphony of life, this symphony of light that we are in concert with the great, great mother.
Oh, so beautiful.
Blessings.
Muy, muy bueno. You know, we have come to the top of the mountain, my friends. Now where do we go? Heaven itself? Just a few words I didn't say about Kristen. She's a Juilliard trained singer, as you've heard, but she's gone far beyond Juilliard. That's for sure. She's known as a conscious musician and producer. She's the vocalist for the internationally acclaimed show Bella Gaia. And she's a great, great advocate for peace and ocean conservation, earth and ocean conservation. So again, thank you so much from the depth of my heart. Kristen has been with us for a few years now on our Earth Day celebrations, and it's just such a deep pleasure. She's internationally renowned and loved, as you can see. Why? Wherever she goes. So, with that said, I have a few other dear friends to bring on right now. That we've had that incredible musical interlude, and we have two very good friends of mine, Bruce Lipton, who is a well-known, internationally renowned cellular biologist who was on last year as well, and we'll be doing something with Bruce in New York City, A Better World with New Realities, coming this August. So if you're interested, go to the website, abetterworld.net, and let us know of your interest, and we'll make sure you get tickets while they're still available. He is a well-known author, speaker, and I've always said that he should be nominated for the Nobel Prize in Medicine because of his breakthrough understanding and teaching about the role of belief systems in our cellular life. In fact, that's the first book he wrote on that subject, The Biology of Belief. Joining us with Bruce is a friend of his and now mine, who he introduced me to, Bharat Mitra, who's on the other side of the world and was kind enough to join us from Australia. He's a visionary, heart-centered entrepreneur whose work manifests in many forms, including business, philanthropy, and community co-creation. He is the founder of Organic India and a member of the board of Fablindia. I think I pronounced that right. I hope so. So I'm so glad to have both of you on. Welcome. Shalom, shalom. And Erev Tov, Boker Tov. Glad to have you both. So, Brucey, great to see you. Where are you? You look like you're in the Amazon.
Well, it's actually my New Zealand home, but I am this moment in Santa Cruz, a special year where I didn't go to New Zealand. Otherwise, I'd be connected with my dear friend Bharat Mitra. Before I go any deeper, I want to go back to Kristen Hoffman for a second.
Oh, please.
she is a bridge between heart and spirituality. When you hear her play, and if you haven't, collected or, gotten into her music, please,
Do
it's
it.
a lifting, life-giving. It's life-giving, and
Oh,
I just
God.
love her. Thank you so much.
Life begetting. You're absolutely right. And let's make a point that she just said, Bruce. I am birthing a new song, which is so perfect, like a new life right here on our Earth Day, which is
Yes.
creating a new global rewiring of our hearts and minds. And you are all so part of it. So, toda raba. Thank you.
I
Thank you,
love you,
Krista.
brother, so much. Before we part, I'm so excited to hear you, but I just love you all so much. And to be on this screen with the three of you is just such a blessing. You each, in your own ways, are my dear mentors and family, and I've just learned so much from each of you. So thank you, and thank you for those beautiful words, Bruce. That really means a lot to me.
God bless. That's wonderful, Kristen. Thank you so much. Bharat, we're all beside ourselves. It's like a goose pimple fest.
Before you get into Bharat, I just want to get into Bharat first.
Oh, please.
He's my dear brother. He's a humanitarian that most people have no idea of who
Yeah.
he is and how he's changed the face of India after Monsanto went in there to destroy the farming industry. And he's come out of it with Organic India. And I just want you to know he did this from a whole spiritual point of view. His company, Organic India, is everyone who works there, from the women who pick the crops out in the field to the board people, everybody's part of this company. When the company does well, the farmers get money for it. Everybody is sharing. It's a community thing. His vision, I really love it because he went in with this vision that I can make an organization where people work and lift everybody up at the same time. And I think all of his friends around after a while is like, well, you're in the red for another year and another year in the red, you're in the red. This company's not working. And Bharat just said, it will work. And I think it was maybe 12 years or more in the red. And then Organic India went like a rocket ship into the black. It is a global network. And when I've seen the workers, they just, he's the father of thousands of farmers in India. And people, I just want you to know, because maybe you didn't see him on the television or something, but he's behind the scenes. And he has created an evolution in India of what it's like to live in harmony and what it's like to work in community. And I needed to say that because my heart is so connected to him. And now you can go with your spiel about him, but I just needed to say that first.
There's no need for my spiel anymore, but I will add one or two things, Bruce. Thank you so much. That was so perfect, truly perfect. I had the great honor of meeting Bharat a few years ago when you were in New York, and we were all at the UN for International Day of Yoga, if you recall. And but I didn't really have a chance to spend much time. But he was in the back of the brownstone we were at, counseling people. I now understand more of what was going on. They were touching base with his spiritual energy and wisdom, which I had the golden opportunity to experience in a recent interview that we did. And I was just quieted and humbled by the presence, honestly. And I'll be quiet in a moment, but it is important to corroborate what you're saying, Bruce, and to really honor this man before us, Bharat Mitra, who has done so much, as you were saying, Bruce, to uplift the Indian farmer who has been so downtrodden because of different Western corporate influences and has breathed new life into their heart and soul. And by the way, the soil. So, welcome, Bharat. Would you kindly share a few things and shut us both up?
Well, thank you so much. And, it takes one to see one. And a lot of the credit that so generously have been flown my way is more than anything, it's just the intelligence of the heart that is alive in each and every one of us. And I think that whenever I see so many beautiful people on the screen, and I feel it every time that we see anyone that is an embodiment, an extension of this intelligence, we celebrate it and we value it. And I'm humbled by the privilege to be in service more than anything. And Organic India is truly an outcome, a flowering of so many people that fallen in love with operating from being present, from giving up the arrogance of the doer as if we know what it is that needs to happen, giving up agendas, concept, even intentions, and just being available to co-create with the creative intelligence that we're all part of. And this earth is a miracle. This earth is a miracle. It's so easy to take it for granted because it's all around us all the time. And yet, you put a seed, a tiny seed, in the earth, and a tree is growing up. The perfection, the synchromystical flow is all around us all the time, and we're part of it. And so I'm just grateful to be present with you all in this moment. And and to celebrate that which is connecting all of us, which is already present right here.
Zemet. It's true, that is in Hebrew. I know 10 words of Hebrew, and I get to trot them out with Barat. So, this idea of a common vision, common purpose, common values that I was speaking about earlier, Barat, where you, Bruce, and I have been sharing this for a long time, even though you and I have just gotten to know each other better recently. That's just, the latter day manifestation of probably an ancient relationship. And I was saying earlier how magnificent it is when we find souls that we feel so connected with, that we feel that we're here at this point in time of such global tragedy in so many ways. And yet we are also the ones who see the lightness, who see even the levity in it all, and can turn like Pollyanna. Did you know that movie is actually wonderful? And I'm accused of being Pollyanna-ish, and I take it as a beautiful compliment because she saw the light side reframed and always saw a silver lining in everything. That's magnificent. That's part of that intelligence you were referring to just before. So, Bruce, are you around? I'd love to hear your comments about that.
All I know is
I have to say something about Bruce, because I think besides like his credential as a cellular biologist and all the things that so beautifully you spoke of him,
Yes.
I think that Bruce is a very courageous voice of authenticity and an independent thinker that was willing to walk out of the world of academia, the safe world of academia, and to challenge all of it. And regardless of his profound teaching about cellular biologists and epigenetics and the way that he can empower through science people to embrace their spiritual nature, and I've been with Bruce in India and in the US and in Israel and in Australia and in New Zealand and in many places where his unique voice is a direct catalysis to awake people to their potential. I think that what he represents is what is needed is for each of us, for each and every one of us, regardless of which field of life you find yourself in, is to trust the intelligence of your own heart and to be willing to be original, to have the courage to challenge the collective conditioning because it doesn't serve us. It's quite obvious. You call it a tragedy. It's quite obvious that what humanity is co-creating right now is not in service of our well-being or the well-being of the earth, which is actually one. And it will take many courageous voices, that one willing to wake up from the conventional and from the collective belief system, and secondly, still be open to co-create with others, because what many people maybe don't know about Bruce is that in spite of his tremendous knowledge, he's sitting in circles and have ability to listen, and the spirit of being in service and the willingness to come together and to contribute is what I feel is the call for all of us. Like the heart tribe that is right now on this screen and is much, much vaster. Our calling is not to try to change the external and other people. It's first and foremost is really changing what needs to be changed within ourselves so we can come together in a very meaningful, truthful way to co-create a new era for humanity. And Bruce is one of those pioneer, humble servants of love and consciousness. And I love you with all my heart, my beautiful brother.
So beautiful. I second everything you said.
I want to tell you, the idea of being in this community, and I want to emphasize that it's not just the community of these people on the screen, it's the community of everybody that is tuned into this program today.
That's
I
right.
want everybody to recognize, if you're tuned into this program, then you represent what I would call cultural creatives, people seeking an answer that we're not finding in the box right now. Buckminster Fuller told us, he said, don't go back and try and change the system. Step outside and create a new system. And everyone who's been on here is really so involved with that. And I want to thank Charles and Colin for their contribution, but I want to go back to Phil Lane for a second. And I want to go back to Phil for a very special reason, that we are facing an evolutionary upheaval. The chaos on this planet is not an accident. It's a sign that we are not sustainable. It takes, science has recognized, it takes 1.6 planet Earths to provide the resources for today's civilization. I say, so where are you getting that extra 0.6? Well, a lot of it we're taking from the future generations of this planet, but we're also destroying the environment. NASA scientists have told us within the next 20 years, now listen, we're facing an irreversible collapse of civilization. And it's due to two things. One, the wealth of the world has gotten to 1% that owns everything, and 99% of everybody else struggling to stay alive. Well, the 1% is holding all the money. And NASA cited that, and NASA cited, of course, we're pillaging the planet. We're taking the resources out. We're destroying everything, polluting the air, water, the ground. And this is, again, back to my dear friend Barrett, was when he came in, he said there's a better way of farming. There's a way of not just organic, but biodynamic, living in harmony. You know, when people, so simple, a garden is not a battleground. A garden is the height of cooperation.
Mm-hmm.
The only one in the garden that is not cooperating are the humans. And nature is sort of giving us, well, you got a little time left here, about 20 years, where you better start changing right now. And I'm very positive about it because, first of all the people on this line, they're all looking, we're all looking, and we're going to find the answers. And the answers are going to be community. Evolution is occurring. Is it the evolution of a human being? No, it's the evolution of a human community. That a body is made out of 50 trillion cells. You say, oh, it's a single body. I say, no, it's a community. All your cells live in a community. And your brain is like the government. If your brain is in harmony with the community, you got health. And if the brain is not paying attention to the community, you got disease. Okay. And we're facing that issue here because the so-called leadership of this world is caught up in some beliefs that are killing us. One of them is Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. I go, why? It's predicated on a competition for the survival of the fittest in the struggle for life. And everybody's out there competing. Competing leads to violence, and competing leads to war. And the competing is, I'm okay, you're not, I don't care. That's competition. We need to change. And the planet is giving us this opportunity. And the opportunity is so beautiful because I wanted to bring back Phil Lane for a second because of what? 10,000 years ago, the world was inhabited by indigenous people. Here in North America, we had Native Americans, and Canada, First Nation people. And I said, what about those people? And I said, that was a civilization that did recognize the planet as a garden, and that these civilizations were designed to be gardeners to take care of the planet. So as we move into the future, we really have to go back about 10,000 years and get the lessons from those original people who were here that told us how to live in harmony on the planet. Why we're here today is the earth is asking us nicely, but firmly, are you going to live in harmony?
Yes.
And the world of corporate greed, competition, violence, and a world that has lost morality. And it's not, and it's interesting because it's science, and science had no morality. How do you get to be the fittest in the, well, there's no morality. You could have a gun or you could have a brain. Which one's going to win? Of course, we know today's system is more guns and bullets than brain work going on. But the point about it is this: we must return to the garden. And this takes me back to my brother Bharat Mitra, because there's a man whose vision says we need to return the garden to us right now. Not just talking about it, folks. Go to any health food store around this world right now, you're going to find products from organic India. And those products are feeding a world over there, changing the evolution. And you know, I have to just say this one thing because he makes me so proud, my brother Bharat. When he started providing biodynamic farming, and then the farmers signed up, and first it was only one farmer because everybody else was saying, look what the West brought us, Monsanto, we don't need any more Westerners here. And Bharat tried to get a new idea off the ground. Only one farmer was the first guy. And all of a sudden, he followed the new understanding of biodynamic farming. His crops grew so well that all the other farmers around going, I want what he has. And now that I don't know how many thousands of farmers are under the nature label of organic India. But I'll just want to say one thing about my humanitarian brother. In India, there are a group of people called the untouchables. This is a hereditary thing where you grow up in this family, and guess what? You can't get a job, and you're untouchable. You're like, ooh, those are the untouchables. Don't touch them. Keep away from them. And one of the farmers, apparently, and I'm making this story up, and Barbara will correct me, one of the farmers' crops were so abundant using biodynamic, he didn't have enough help picking the crops. And I distinctly remember it was Bharat Mitra who said to this farmer, "But what about those people?" And they said, "Oh, they're untouchables." And Bharat said, "They have hands, don't they?" And he convinced the farmers to actually bring the untouchables on and give them a job, which they never had. Guess what? The untouchables in that area disappeared because now they were regular people, working people,
Oh,
working for organic India. And that is a change of
that is
culture.
so
inside.
huge.
Yes.
Multi-generations, literally, oh, well over 1,000 years of the caste system. I was just speaking about that with some Indian friends today, and that you would have made that inroad. So it was an economic, it was food, and it's social, because it's all one, as you're saying, one thing. That's beautiful, Bruce. Thank you so much for
Well, that's Bharat.
that
That was beautiful. I
deep
just told a
sharing.
story.
I know. Well, we have two beautiful souls. What can I say? For which I am grateful. Oh, thank you both for being on our Earth Day celebration. And
Mitchell, I will just add,
just
I
just love you both.
I just love to add one thing, and just tiny advice. So our conversation does not remain just exchange of ideas. I just love to share a very practical advice for all of us, which is to find 5-10 minutes a day to stop and get bare feet and stand on the earth. It's sometimes as simple as that. Like many of us are so engaged with inspiring projects and things that we feel really passionate about, especially everyone that I see on the screen and possibly many of the people who are listening.
I'm sure.
But the most essential for each and every one of us, beside the activity and the engagement with the world, is to have a moment to stop everything. If possible, take your shoes off and stand on the earth, beside everything which is by itself and unbelievable precious in this modern living that we're in. There is an invitation to feel a connection. And it's actually really effortless. From that presence and connection, being kind, being loving, being caring, having a direct recognition of our place in the garden is not something that we thrive for any other time. It's each one of us right now. So, in Byron Bay, where I am, 2 years ago, there was floods and everything got destroyed. Like neighborhoods got washed, bridges were destroyed. No internet, no cell phones, no infrastructure, no communication. And it was an incredible moment where actually the community had to rely on just being present. And there were people that coming from one side where the bridge was destroyed to bring stuff, and people created ways to pass on things from one side to the other. And from one side, somebody knew of a woman that lived in the mountain with a baby that was alone and brought some supplies. And on the other side, somebody picked it up and left it in a store with a note, there is a woman living there. So day after in the morning, there was a reality of co-creation. Nobody knew what anybody else were doing, but the whole was taking care of everyone. It's not far away from us. It's our true nature. right now. It is simple. And yeah, love to everyone. Get bare
Thank you so
feet on
much.
the earth, few minutes a day. Just stop to connect to your own heart space and fall in love with it and trust it.
Mm,
The miracle is already here.
God bless. Thank you so much, Barat
Thank
and
you.
Bruce. Love you both. And for all of you, you should know that, Bruce, you want to say a few words of your presence to be in New York City with me and our friends?
All I want to say is I look forward to working with you, Mitchell. Let's acknowledge something right now because everybody has to recognize all of this was organized by Mitchell, the whole thing that's going around the planet right now. So let's recognize that just didn't happen by accident. There was a man doing all of this stuff, and I so appreciate that. And I just want people to recognize this. We are facing a very positive future, and you're going to see the world falling apart. And I say, well, that's good news, bad news. For if you're holding on to the world, it's falling apart. That's pretty bad news. But if you let go, you'll start to realize it's the civilization we're in that is destroying the planet. And the way out is a new civilization. The current one is self-destructive. And we're moving. And why is everybody on this line? Because they know that the civilization in that box isn't working. And it's time for us to take our power out of that box and put our power into the community, because evolution is community. The future is so bright because when we start to live in the community that Bharat just mentioned about, and I've been in one of those after tragic things happening in New Zealand, and saw all the people start to work together. And I said, that is the sign of evolution. And it's interesting because what we're saying is when it's an argument between class status, race status, and all that, that there's problems there. But when we start to recognize, no, we're all in the same boat. We're
Yes.
facing a problem. I don't care what class, race, religion, I don't care what you're in, folks. We're in the same boat. And it's time for us, it will automatically bring us together because that is called humanity. Humans. Human is compassion. And now it's time for us to live up to our name because the Mother Earth is asking us to. And she's sort of giving us a little
So
nudge,
true.
a little nudge. And if we don't
That's
pay
right.
attention, you're going to get a big nudge. But I
Exactly.
think we're ready to pay attention.
The big nudge is happening, but your words of true wisdom, Bruce, are so appreciated because when we look around, we see institutions collapsing, we see trust in them collapsing, and people are looking around like, where do we go? Well, Reverend Jesse Jackson said, we all may have taken different boats over here, but we're all in the same boat now. And just to reiterate your point, and if you're attached to that institution, you're attached to that outer form, God save you. Because it's shifting, folks. There's a new tide, and everyone here today from all over the world, Russia, Asia, California, Australia, are part of this new boat. It's like an ark. So thank you, Noah. God bless. And yes, it's true. Bruce will be here, A Better World, and my dear friend Alan Steinfeld will be joining me in welcoming Bruce and putting on an event. If you want more information about it, it's on August 3rd at a place in the West Village. Just go to abetterworld.net and go to the contact page and put it in as a subject, and we'll make sure you get tickets. There's not a huge amount of space, so if you're interested, please go soon and get on the list. Oh my God, I am it's a goosebump night. It just is, and I'm just so glad to be sharing all these wonderful goosebumps with all of you. And it's so much fun. And when people gather of similar mind, magic happens. It's the way it is. So on that note, to continue our magic, we have another wonderful human being that over the last year or so I've gotten to know and really enjoy, and that's Kamara Kassan. She's a multidisciplinary polymath. I love that phrase. Educated in environmental science, technology, permaculture, and psycho-spiritual guidance. She's the founder of Visionary Fund, a crowdfunding platform for personal growth and visionary projects. And I met Kamara at a Climate Week last year, and she's been working very closely with Michael Smith, who I'm just so fond of. And we're doing some work that is very complementary. And Kamara has helped to, well, what she does, connect dots. So Kamara, welcome. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I feel really honored. And it's interesting as I am sitting here listening to all of these amazing speakers that I have, some of whom I've been following most of my adult life, like Mr. Lipton, and reading Charles Eisenstein and hearing the prayers of Phil Lane, and connecting with Colin Grant on LinkedIn. It feels as though all these puzzle pieces are coming together. And the emergence of the new civilization is that it's emergent. It's an emergent quality of the universe and of Mother Earth. And I think that the pressures that we're seeing on our ecosystems and all of our systems, on our biome, on our mental health, on our economy, on the oceans, on all of it is really like birthing pains and an evolutionary process, not the Darwinic kind of evolution, but more like an evolution of consciousness, an evolution of this creation. And where do I go from here? Let's see.
You're doing great so far, I'll tell you that.
Well, a few years ago, when I had my first child when I was 21. I was studying biology at the University of Calgary and microbiology in specific, and I got pregnant. And when I went to decide what to do about this pregnancy, I saw an ultrasound of my daughter's heart beating. And I decided in that moment that I wanted to keep her for personal reasons. And when she was born, I had to take time off school, change my life entirely, 21 years old. And as I'm holding this newborn baby in my arms, I'm thinking to myself, this world isn't safe for this baby because we're not treating ourselves well. We're not treating the earth well. We're not treating each other well. And this isn't going to end well. What can I do to help? And so as I changed what I was eating and the way I looked at things, and I went and studied permaculture and learned about how to integrate systems and the symbiosis that is our living systems, and not just the environment is separate from us, but that, all of the different pieces are enmeshed within it. And after that, I studied environmental science technology. And my goal was, how do we create human cities and communities that are in harmony with nature, that aren't polluting it or taking from it, that are sustainable, produce their own power, produce their own food. That was the intention that I went into that education with. And it wasn't until probably a decade later, when one of my children passed away from a terminal brain disease, that I began to have the courage to really be like, this needs to happen now. Like, the time is now. And I see there's a parallel, as within, so without. And so as I can compare the trials and tribulations that I had as a human being with the trials and tribulations that we're seeing in our civilization, is that there's like these pressures, the pressure and the forging, the layers of suffering that then cause radical transformation, which is what we see in psychospiritual coaching and guidance, is that people who have a lot of suffering often have the most profound shifts in their thinking process and in their hearts. And so I just wanted to give you a little bit of background. So I had a vision several years ago when I was meditating with some plant medicine. And it was about how to build and design a self-sustaining regenerative city, and the cultural, socioeconomic, education, and technological systems within that city that could make it a truly sustainable civilization, and not just one city, but a network of them.
Mm-hmm.
And about a year ago, I decided to be bold and really go for this vision, and I created something called Masterminding Eden. And so it's a group of people, and it's also an event. And we're bringing people together, approximately 300 experts from all different areas of expertise, to co-design what is the best we can do. If we were to reimagine how humans live on Earth in cities, what would it look like and how could we do it? And we're going to design it and then simulate it. Along that path, what I've been doing as a weaver and a networker is collecting different people, organizations, and businesses that have different puzzle pieces, different technologies, different inventions, different systems. And one of the ones I stumbled across was Regenitech and Michael Smith's Earth Power Lodge. You know, I saw the need to grow, and the need to grow is about the Regenitech biorefinery. Actually, it's about the previous version, which was
A
called
documentary, folks.
yeah,
That's
the
brilliant. Everyone
documentary.
should see it.
Yeah, so it's about this biorefinery that turns waste biomass into biostimulants, soil amendments, and electricity, and also wood vinegar, all of which are regenerative products.
Biochar.
Biochar is one of them. And when I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is part of the city for sure. And not only that, but it's got so many applications. I just have to talk to this guy.
Yes.
So in true Chimera fashion, I hunted down the inventor and I got him on the phone. And I said, you know, I have this vision. And he said, and I have one too. And we talked and we were able to find a place where they synergize. And I started volunteering to help Regenitech. And so I'm their coordinator now. And we are aiming to build a network of these Earth regeneration stations around the planet with a new socioeconomic model so that it benefits whole communities and all the people instead of just a corporation at the top. And while I'm doing that, I'm also working on this thing called Masterminding Eden, which is bringing together these different experts to co-design this city vision. And so we believe it's going to be happening April of next year, in about a year. And so that's a bit about what I'm doing. And I'm really stoked to welcome people who want to be involved and to participate and help us put these puzzle pieces together and really dive into inquiry about what is the best humanity can do. How do we prepare for the down path of the overshoot? As Dr. Lipton was mentioning, we have an overshoot problem. And as Colin was talking about the ocean and the surface microlayer, there are some problems that are in motion now that have momentum, and they can't just be stopped. So we need to prepare for what is coming with that. And we need to build resilient habitation and start the adaptation plans and really create and look at the fundamental core of the systems within our models that are actually causing the sickness in humanity. Not just one piece or another, as Charles Eisenstein was saying, but the whole, the symbiosis. And
Yep.
so that's
Those
where
are all well shared. I very much appreciate all of it and who you are and what you're doing. And I've been watching you connect me with any number of people over the past year, which has been a lot of fun, including with Michael. And as a result, you and I have a certain kind of synergy happening, to wit, my invitation to you to join us here, but also technically in terms of building out these communities and cities. Everyone here has been talking about communities. Bruce was talking about the community of cells, which we all know of. And he's been one of the great voices of promoting that understanding that we live inside a community literally, and we live in community outside of ourselves. Bharat has done similar with the Indian farming world, creating community. It's beautiful. He told me stories that are in our interview. I really recommend you go to hear my interview with him on the YouTube channel. And you and I are doing some of the things. In fact, now that we've met again here, I have more people to introduce you to because we're working on a project in Costa Rica. But, you know, these are just iterations of the same idea that people love each other, that we are love at core, and we want life to be expressed accordingly. And it is our nature. We talk about nature. I believe it is our nature to be just this way, to be coming from a space of love and kindness and compassion, other words we hear floating around today, and to express it freely in our world with each other is the basis of any wonderful community that I would want to live in. So I think the same for you.
Yeah, and also holding realism, and grounding, having the spiritual empowerment and authority to pray and call in and manifest and be present and be in love and be in service, but also being able to hold the physical reality as, there is something that needs to be dealt with now. It's time to chop wood and carry water and not just wait to ascend.
That's right. As a grand shrine in earth, I appreciate what you're saying. Taurus in the center. So, Kamara Kasem, thank you so much for being here today and sharing with us some of what you're doing. It's heartening. So thank you.
You're very welcome. We're actually doing the launch of the New Earth Power Lodge on Monday, on Earth Day in Montana.
Okay.
And
at Michael's place?
At Michael's place. And then I'm heading to the Venus Project in Florida. They've asked me to bring them in as a main partner with Masterminding Eden. So there's a lot of big organizations and people coming on board. And I think that it's important. And I would really love more help and support. For anybody who's watching, please consider reaching out.
Beautiful. Thanks again, my dear. Thanks again. Well, I hope you're absorbing all of this like I am. I'm just so loving everyone and all that's happening here. And guess what? We have another musical interlude. It happens to be with a very dear friend of Kristen's and mine, Pramik Russell Tubbs, who, by the way, is performing this evening and wasn't able to make it in person, which he has done in the past. He is, I want to just say a couple of words and then we'll play a little clip that he made for us tonight. He is an acclaimed musician, composer, producer, and teacher who's had a musical career that spans decades and genres, from jazz to popular to spiritual. He's played with Santana, Herbie Hancock, Sting, Ravi Shankar, and on it goes. It's a glorious, glorious resume Pramik has, and he's followed in the footsteps of his father, who is also a very renowned jazz musician who played with John Coltrane and Miles Davis and all the jazz greats. So it's with great pleasure that, dear Roland, if you would, please bring on Pramik.
Namaste and greetings, fellow Earth Day wonderful celebrating friends. This year, at Mitchell's request, we're going to offer something just slightly more jazzy, but yet uplifting. This is a beautiful composition composed by my meditation teacher, Sri Chinmoy. And although my pianist could not be with me today, his great pianist from Russia named Misha Tsaganov, we're going to hear his piano in the background as I play this lovely ballad called Beauty Came to Me. Thank you all so much, everyone. Blessings, greetings, and have a beautiful, beautiful rest of this Earth Day. Namaste.
Ah, again. Pramik, dear brother, thank you. So love it, love it. I have a weakness for jazz. I grew up on it, and he reminds me of my past. It's beautiful, just beautiful. Well, guess what? I said before that there were a couple of surprises we had toward the end of the evening, which is kind of wild that we're getting there. What feels so quickly, time feels like it's kind of stopped in many ways because of the joy and the love that we're all experiencing here together, forming a great, beautiful love fest, if you will. And now we have a gentleman I met, and we've become good friends since down in Ecuador in Vilcabamba a few years ago. And a group of us went down there to Vilcabamba to visit friends, Susan Davis and Walter Mura, Americans who moved down there to start a biodynamic farm, Bharat, as a matter of fact. And they are good friends of the Kogi. The Kogi are an amazing group of beings who, interestingly, I kind of love telling this story, who escaped the Spanish conquest of South America back in approximately the 16th century. And I'm very much generalizing, and I'm sure I'll be corrected, but by and large, they ran for the hills in Colombia and they escaped the deluge and they managed to keep their own culture intact for all of these hundreds of years. So we have with us this evening Lucas Dreier, who is an American anthropologist from UMass, who has been spending most of the last 9 or 10 years down there in Colombia, in the Sierras, with the Kogi Nation, and learned their language. And most of the Kogi don't even know Spanish. That's how removed they have been as a culture. And what they've been doing is listening to the heartbeat of Mother Earth like probably no other culture this deeply on the planet. And so not only is Lucas with us, but one of the indigenous of tribe, it's herself, Senekan, is with him in the Sierras. They're coming in from Colombia, and we're going to be with them in just a moment. But first, we're going to see a 5-minute clip of a video. Bienvenidos, por favor. And we will first see a clip that will give you an orientation of the Kogi intelligence and wisdom and connection to the earth that speaks to some of this energy and understanding.
I am the mother. I am in the heart of the universe. Throughout all of time, I have never suffered from such heat or exhaustion. I have endured for the last 1,000 years. Since that time, my natural connection points, my rivers, reservoirs, and internal waterways across all continents have been obstructed and are full of pollution. I cannot cleanse or recuperate. In December of 2023, I will start to rise and move and turn, sending this message out to all my children around the world. The storms, the earthquakes, the hurricanes, and the rise of the ocean will come. If the governments, the sultans, the princes, presidents, and kings of the world do not listen and act, in 2 years' time, only 30% of the earth will remain. I am the mother. I have always endured despite arrows being put in my eyes and in my body. I am not seeking to defend myself. I remain calm. But now, I must recuperate. There are 2 ways for me to heal. The first, I could take the law of nature into my own hands. This way, I will go in search of my medicine so I can cure my body, heal my energies, and all that I'm suffering from. There will be great changes upon the earth. You will feel me recovering. You will feel me moving. I will not do this to cause harm to you. It will mean I am recuperating my body. Or the second way. All my children will make the healing happen for me, so I will not need to do it myself. I will put my older children in charge of my recovery. They will go and search for my medicines, for my cure, so I can be healed and recuperate with their help. You, my children, must all be united and deliver what is needed for your older brothers so they can do the healing where I have been injured by you, my younger ones. Each one of the rulers of the world, of the governments of the world, must say, yes, Mother, I will stand with you. I will give my help to where you have been injured. I, your mother, have given you everything. When these changes start to happen, we will see whether you listen and act, or whether I myself will have to do what I must to recover the balance on Earth. If in just 6 months from now, by June 2024, you say, yes, we will provide what is needed, then my oldest children will be able to help cure my body. If this message is ignored, I will take the law of nature into my own hands, 1.5 years from that date. This is the message that the Mother has given, she who is in the heart of the world.
Oh my God. Bienvenidos. We have the unique opportunity to have Lucas and Senekan with us from the Kogi Nation directly in Colombia to speak with us about what it is we just saw, the meaning and interpretation, and a little bit about what life is like there directly and the messages they have to bring to us all. Whether we take what was just said literally or not, we'll get some look into right now. And let me just say that the Kogi do not make themselves available typically to the West, or actually to anyone for that matter. They're very cohesive inside their own nation, and it's rare that they step out. I was given a blessed opportunity to be with them for almost a week in Vilcabamba in Ecuador a few years ago. It was an unusual time period that was happening for very specific reasons, and that we're able to bring them to our Earth Day celebration is a gift from, well, from Mother Earth herself. So with that said, Lucas, Senekan, bienvenidos. Great to have you. Lucas, would you please start and just do a little introduction and tell us a little bit about your experience there, and then also introduce, if you would, Senekan to have a few words with us as well.
Great. Yes. Thank you, Mitch.
Yes, but
very
no es
honored
bueno,
to be here
Senekan.
with-
Perdón. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mitchell. Yes, very honored to be here with such an extraordinary group on this Earth Day, and honored to be here with Senekan. This was sort of a last-minute plan that emerged, where instead of being down in the city, we're actually up in the mountains with a satellite internet connection, and it seems to be working so far. And yeah, so I had the good fortune to meet Mitchell, as he said, and in Ecuador a couple of years ago, and I'm originally from Massachusetts in the United States, and first came to Colombia about 13 years ago, interested in meeting and working with the Kogi people. And so we're here next to this village called Mulcuacungui in the Sierra. And before I say more, we thought we'd have Senekan say a few words. Her husband, who's a good friend of mine, is also here, but he wanted her to speak. He also shared some things with me that I'll give a summary of. So Senekan actually understands a little bit of English, but she's going to speak just a little bit in Spanish, and I'll translate.
Excelente. Bienvenidos.
Bueno, hola a todos, mi nombre es Senekan y hago parte del pueblo Kogi de la Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, Colombia.
Greetings to everyone. My name is Senekan. I'm part of the Kogi people in the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta in Colombia.
Y pues para mí es de gran placer y me da mucha alegría poder estar en este espacio, en este lugar, con personas tan especiales como ustedes. Y he estado escuchando lo que ustedes han estado compartiendo desde pues cada uno de ustedes. Y realmente es muy, ¿cómo decirlo? Me da como esperanza escuchar que hay personas que se preocupan o que realmente están con esa conciencia de lo que es cuidar la tierra, cuidar el planeta, de poder salvar, de poder crear acciones para poder mejorar la sociedad en la tierra.
So she's very honored to be here with everyone who's been speaking, and she's been listening to the speakers and really appreciates, and it gives her hope to hear from so many people who really care about and are thinking about caring for the earth.
Bueno, entonces desde el pueblo Kogi nosotros hablamos de la tierra y no solamente decimos solamente hoy, el Día de la Tierra, sino que para nosotros la tierra siempre ha sido primordial desde el origen, desde la creación del universo. Se nos ha dejado esa tarea como hermanos mayores, como se nos ha llamado desde el mundo occidental, es debido, digamos, a que se nos fue dejada encargada la misión de poder proteger, velar y preservar los conocimientos que para poder cuidar la tierra, el territorio que es la madre en la que nosotros vivimos.
So speaking from the perspective of the Kogi people, Senekan was saying that for them, Earth Day, it's not just one day, but for them, their connection to the earth is primordial from the beginning, from the creation of the earth. That they, as the elder brothers or elder siblings, have had this task of protecting, caring for the earth, caring for the knowledge about the earth. This has been their task from the beginning.
Entonces, desde el pueblo Kogi decimos que el territorio o el planeta Tierra, pues es una madre y digamos que todos estos fenómenos que están sucediendo hoy en día, el cambio climático del que se habla hoy en día, todos estos fenómenos naturales, huracanes, todos estos desastres que ocurren, digamos, es como una manera de la madre mostrarnos el gran daño que hemos venido haciendo desde hace muchos años, que debemos tomar conciencia, que debemos tomar acción en lo que está sucediendo, porque si no lo hacemos, pues en un futuro vamos a terminar acabándonos nosotros mismos. Quizás aún ciertas personas o anteriormente no hemos sido conscientes y lo que hemos hecho es destruir la tierra. ¿De qué manera? En la extracción de sus elementos, cuando hablamos, por ejemplo, del carbón, de los minerales, del petróleo, todos esos elementos que para el ser humano, para el hermanito menor, quizás no son valiosos para, digamos, desde la visión del pueblo indígena, hacen parte del territorio, hacen parte de la vitalidad de la tierra. Entonces, al nosotros extraer, al nosotros desentrañar esos elementos del territorio, la estamos debilitando, la estamos matando.
So for the Kogi people, the earth is the mother, and when things happen like natural disasters and hurricanes, for them, it's a sign that the mother is reminding us, is showing us the damage that we've caused, the imbalance that we've caused, and she's showing us this to spur us to action, to change how we're treating the earth. And because if we don't change, then it can lead to sort of total destruction. And for people who don't have this awareness, they might be thinking that there's value to extracting things out of the earth, extracting sort of coal and other minerals. But from the Kogi perspective, when we do things like that, we're destroying ourselves, because these elements of the earth are critical to the vitality of the earth. So we're harming our own well-being when we act in this unconscious way.
Bueno, Lucas, I would like to
Entonces,
ask you something, if I may, now. I want to thank Senekan so much for being here and sharing your perspective with us from the point of view of the Kogi. It's of utter, complete magnificence for us and a true gift. So muchas gracias. I went and en otra vez, más en otra vez, ¿ah? Por favor. Sure. Lucas, I would love to ask you, because we just all witnessed and experienced a very powerful video, short but very clear and to the point. From your understanding of the Kogi worldview, there were specific dates that were spoken of, which are, a little hard to digest. And I personally get a little ruffled by it. I don't really think I or we should take it literally, certainly. And yet at the same time, symbolically, it's telling a very important story that's very aligned with what Senekan was just saying. So could you speak from your understanding about that in particular, and then of your experience with the Kogi more in general?
Sure. Yeah. So in the Kogi culture, for questions like that, it's sort of the common refrain would be, in their culture, these messages come from through the sacred sites. So when you want to ask these types of questions, you go to what they call a mama, who's a male spiritual authority, or a saga, a female spiritual authority, and then they would go to a sacred site and they would do a kind of spiritual consultation where that sacred site, and by extension the mother, speaks. And so I, sitting right here, wouldn't be able to directly sort of assess a message that comes. It's something that's the work the mamas and sagas do. But I think this type of message I've been hearing in different ways I mean, as you said, maybe not with those dates, but the overall message of this urgent call from the Mother Earth certainly has been coming through, even going back to this first documentary about the Kogi that came out some 30 something years ago. So yeah, I think there's a process of the Kogi have their process of doing their kind of internal consultations and meetings with people from all the different sacred sites to have a full picture. So it would be, I would defer to that process.
Yes,
as
yes,
far as
yes.
specific dates. Yeah.
Very understandable, very understandable. Now I just want to ask another question, if I may, of you, and that is something more of your direct experience of the Kogi and what you feel our global audience right now should know about their own inner process that they have been able to incubate over these many hundreds of years of not being infiltrated. So there is this direct connection to Pachamama that is simply beyond. I mean, I believe that all of us have it without any question at all. It's part of being alive. Yet we are so programmed and conditioned by the Western worldview, and we lose some of that connection. Hence, the extraction economy that we've developed that has no vital heart connection with the planet, and we treat her, like a resource, which is strange to think about your mother as a resource the way that we collectively do. So could you just help to bring us into some of that world of the Kogi, the consciousness, the feeling?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, so I first heard about the Kogi and the Sierra through a friend of my father's who had seen that first documentary 30 something years ago, and I was very
From the
struck by this
BBC?
wisdom they seem to have. Exactly, yeah. Where this very powerful message is coming through, trying to wake up humanity to how they're impacting Mother Earth, their relationship with Mother Earth, and the impact of that. And yeah, so as I've gotten to spend time with them, gotten to know them, gotten to learn more about the whole context of this, there really is still to this day this extraordinary ongoing connection and attunement to both listening, hearing, and understanding. For them, it's a language that you really have to learn to understand what is being spoken by Mother Earth in these various ways through the different sacred sites. And so we're just a little ways up the mountain here, but way up high in the kind of principal sacred sites, there are still these mamas going through training, where they go through a training, some of it in the darkness, where they learn to attune themselves to this intelligence, and they devote themselves to this practice. Some of them never come down the mountain. They stay up there kind of devoted to this work, which for them is fundamental to our well-being, because our principal task is to care for the earth, but to do that well, we have to be able to restore balance. There's as beings on earth, everything we do has an impact. This has been coming up through the calls, so through some of the speakers. So everything we do has an impact on the whole community of beings around us. And we always have to be doing work to restore balance. And through this connection to the intelligence of the mother, they're able to do just the right kind of healing work to restore balance constantly. And that up until perhaps that first film, they did this kind of on their own without much interaction with the outside world, but they found it necessary to begin sharing this message, and they've been doing that more and more over the last 30 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you. It's so important for us all to hear this. I'm reminded of the Tibetan Buddhists who in their monasteries in Tibet, well, now mainly in India, north and south, are doing rituals and mantras and meditations that are for the collective benefit of all sentient beings, in fact. And we're doing what we're doing with the earth, with the soil, with the air, with the water. Many of us here on this call and everyone across the planet are involved in one way or another in creating a better world, if you will, and making peace with and healing of Mother Earth. Some groups, like the Kogi, like the Tibetans, the Jews have what they call the 36 judges that are all around the world who are also seeking to maintain and sustain a balance, a harmony with Mother Nature, with earth and heaven as well. So there's an archetypal quality to people who are deeply connected, organically, if you will, and doing this kind of inner work like Bharat was talking about, that the change starts inside and life starts inside and then gets, expressed outwardly. So I very much appreciate your sharing with us about some of the inner workings and the inner life. And, I'd love to have you both on as guests on A Better World so we can go a little further in sharing this understanding, if you'd be open to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I hadn't quite realized how quickly time was passing. That there's this extraordinary depth of knowledge here where these kinds of themes are spoken over many nights in a row. So in my mind, I was just beginning to think about the different aspects, but we can certainly go further in the future. But there's something very important happening here. There's this extraordinary understanding of how this particular mountain functions as this kind of microcosm of the whole universe and has this special relationship with the rest of the planet, which is why it's referred to as the heart of the world. And that what's done here in the way the mamas understand it has this significant impact kind of on that through the networks of energy through the whole planet. And the Kogi and the other 3 tribes of the Sierra have been working very hard, especially in the recent decades, to recover the territory that was traditionally the territory they cared for. And so there's now this huge area in this big mountain structure where they're caring for the sacred sites and in the process of recovering even more of that traditional territory so that they can continue this work to, especially now, to try to keep in balance the sort of the planet's energy system.
Oh God, yeah, I get it. I get it. I was in Peru many, many years ago, actually for harmonic convergence. Of course, I went when I was about 2 years old. But anyway, Cuzco in Quechua means center, as in belly button, micro level, and center of the universe as well, center of Earth. So I see that there's this pattern. This, again, I'm using the word, kind of calling upon Jungian understanding of an archetype, that there is a creation of a sacred space and human beings participating in certain mindful, intentional activities to help us restore balance and harmony among all sentient life. And obviously the Kogi are teaching us a lot about that. So I thank you for your sharing, los dos, both of you. And is it possible that you hold the camera up, Lucas, so we could just see a little bit of where you are physically? Is that possible?
De noche.
It's dark now, but we
Oh.
are we're next to a Kogi sacred house.
A spirit house?
But I don't think you'll be able to see it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's going to be,
Oh, it's
probably can't even see the silhouette.
Es la noche. Yeah, I see.
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. I remember that. Yes.
Yeah,
At
the
Susan
spirit
and
house, yeah.
Walters, they have a spirit house on their property. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, again, otra vez, gracias por todo. Thank you so much for being here from Colombia to bless our blessed gathering. So appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Yes, honored to be here.
Gracias.
Gracias. Buenas
And
noches.
there were just in the last few days here, the mamas or the mamos up in the mountain have been doing their work of offerings, and the rains have been starting finally after a long time. And in their way of thinking, that's kind of even this affects the whole planet. So just in the last 3 days, the rains have begun here. So so there's a wonderful energy here.
Oh God, that's wonderful. That is so. Mind, and this is one of the beautiful pieces of work. Everything is connected. Yes, Charles, I know. And it's not trivial, but the work of my dear friend Bruce Lipton of mind and matter and mind and cells and infused by emotion, creating impact on a cellular and DNA level is extraordinary. And the effect then of the collective prayers here for water, for rain from the sky, is yet another manifestation of the truth of all things that are usually hidden from view.
Absolutely.
So
and the wonderful understanding here is that not only do our thoughts and everything we do have an impact on the whole planet, which can be destructive, but the well-being of the planet and the well-being of the beings kind of implicit in the life of the planet is dependent on our being nourished by our thoughts and our energies. So the only way to bring healing is if we have an active relationship with Mother Earth, with all the beings of Mother Earth, that through that relationship, she can receive the nourishment she needs to come into balance.
Perfecto. Gracias. That's fantastic. If I could speak Kogi, I would, but it's enough that I say a little in Spanish. But truly, thank you both. This is a deep gift that we all need to hear, and I'm eminently grateful.
Thank you very much.
You're so welcome.
Grateful to be here.
De nada. What do you say? What do you say? Talk about humility. The word humility is actually connected to the earth herself. Humus comes from the ancient Greek and, of course, Middle Eastern food, but it is related. And our ability to bring ourselves down to the earth and enjoy her. Moses said, I walk with the lowly. And another interpretation of that is that we are close to the earth, that she is our friend and our mother. And it's just another way of understanding and expanding some of the wisdom that is in many of our traditions. And, you know, Bharat used the word hubris, that our attitudes are often hubristic. And it's just so true. And to be in the presence of Lucas and Senekan and brother Chief Phil is just, and all of us here actually, each one in our own way, bringing that level of humility and appreciation for life itself to the foreground. So, believe it or not, we are wrapping up. And before I make some final comments, I have invited a dear friend of mine, Jackson Madnick, who is expressing as a social entrepreneur, as an eco-entrepreneur, some of what his life work has been in the last, 15, 20 years of planting seeds. And if we can bring Jackson up for a moment and his beautiful little dog. He'll share with us just in a couple of quick minutes of what he's doing, because it's so relevant to the dealing of carbon sequestration and things that we can all do, if you have a backyard, that is, related to helping to heal the earth. So Jackson, are you with us? Dear Jackson, can we, Roland, bring Jackson forward? I see him.
His camera and mic are not on, so I don't think he's actually with us.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, he asked to be, and I said yes, and voila. He's not, I see his name, but I don't see his smiling face. So I will just move on and just, maybe if he pops up during some just closing comments, my comments are just that each and every single presenter, starting with Chief Phil Lane Jr., all the way, who I've had the pleasure of calling a friend for many years, to Colin Grant, to Charles Eisenstein, Bruce Lipton and Bharat Mitra, everyone, Kamara, Kassan, everyone who has been on, my dear Kirsten Hoffman. I mean, it's just been an awesome evening for me, and I surely hope for you. We have had and shared such beautiful learning here, from ancient wisdom to even some of the latest technologies that are coming together collaboratively to create a better world. And I can't tell you how grateful I am for each one of my friends who have come today to share, and for all of you who from all over the world have taken the time to share also your time with us, and to embrace these thoughts and these feelings that together collectively have an energy that are really making an impact in the larger quantum field. So I feel like I should just say a word. A Better World is my organization is completely committed to the health and harmony of all sentient beings, including Mother Earth, that there's no real separation here, even though for linguistic convenience, we talk about separation. But, in reality, it's really not. Our health is the Earth's health. The Earth's health is ours. So I just invite you all to embrace that larger view of reality, quite honestly, and to live in that space, so that the way we speak with each other, the way we relate to each other, and the way we relate directly to the mother is all part. The Tibetan Buddhists say something I always really enjoyed: treat all beings like she is your mother. And think of what the better world we would have if we really did that, to love all beings the way we love and respect our mother. So I just want to remind you all that Bruce Lipton will be in New York. We're going to have a fabulous time. He's going to be on the East Coast for the first time in years, except for visits. We got to hang out together a few years ago at the UN, as I was saying earlier. And we're going to have a great time. That's August 3rd. Just go to the website. Bruce, do you want to say a word about that before we part ways with everybody?
I just want to actually say thank you to everyone who's online, because I really trust a better future because you're all here. And I just really would like you to know how truly powerful you are as a creator. And we've been programmed to be victims. And I go, no, old program. time for the new science of your personal empowerment. And I wish you'd do it, because the more power you have, the faster we're going to evolve. Thank you.
From your mouth to God's ears. Oh, yes. I'm all for it. So, in order to see Bruce live in person in New York City, go to abetterworld.net and put your name there, and we'll get back to you about that. And I'm just so grateful for all of you. Better World, as I said, we're working on many different projects. One was with Colin Grant for some time, and I'm sure we'll be circling back at the appropriate moment, and Kamara Kassan as well. And Bruce Lipton and I are always, connected at the hip. So it's with great gratitude to you all for coming today and being with us. Last comment is my good friend Andrew Kane is doing his Earth Day celebration. It's called the 16th Annual Peace Earth Day celebration, which is both in New York City as well as live streaming tomorrow. So if you go to planetheart.org, you'll be able to tune in and enjoy. In fact, I'll be one of the speakers there tomorrow afternoon. So thanks again, everybody. Lucas, Senekan, Todo. So glad to have you all. I'll see you next time.
Thank you.
And yes, every day is Earth Day. So keep her in your heart and mind. God bless everyone.